Hey everyone, good afternoon.
Hello.
My name is Pedro. I'm here with Ann. Hey Ann, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you. Hi, Pedro. I
It's
was
it.
just checking if we're live and we are.
Yes, we are. So please, guys, leave on the comments if the audio is okay. If there's any technical issues with the
Yeah.
live, if everything's going fine, and also leave your name, write down what you do, what's your company, what is your business, and what do you expect, to achieve in the future. Because we're gonna talk about a lot of very interesting things in today's Q&A session. Usually, Jackie is here for this, right? But she's not with us today. She's amazing, of course, but fortunately, she couldn't be with us today. So we're gonna be hosting it, but we have a lot of great content for you guys. Oliver, I see your comment right there already. Hi, how you doing? Welcome, everyone. We are live on the Facebook community and on YouTube. Cheers from Kiora from Georgia. Great state. By the way, I love Atlanta. It's a great city. Um, yep. So everyone, welcome. We're gonna have a few things
Welcome.
today to talk about, right, Anne?
Yes, super exciting today. We're making it specifically about brand strategy and brand design. And of course, also we'll answer any other questions that may pop up. But we thought it would be a good idea since, I'm filling in with Pedro today for Jackie, and I'm personally more of a branding expert. So we thought you might enjoy that to have kind of a theme for this Q&A. So drop all of your questions about um, all of those topics.
Yes, exactly. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Pedro. I'm a part of the customer success team here in Brazil, but I'm always doing a little bit of everything with the other teams as well. So it's always a pleasure to be here to be talking with different people from different places around the world. So let's get into how this is going to work. So, of course, as Ann mentioned, we're gonna have a couple of topics. We have a couple of things to talk about. But if you have any questions, any strategical questions or marketing related questions, drop them down on the comments, and we'll be reading them and we'll be answering them. Hello from Australia. We have a Facebook user from Australia. I'm not sure what time is
Nice.
it in Australia. It must be a little late, I guess, but it's great to have you here. Um, so if you guys have any questions, doesn't matter if it's a dumb question, if it's a simple question. There are no dumb questions. There are just wasted opportunities to make that question. So just leave them down here. Hey Douglas from Washington D.C. Cool. It's
Oh,
6
6
a.m.
a.m.
Wow, that's early actually. I thought
Yeah,
it was gonna be
early
late,
right
but it's
there.
really early.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh
Amazing.
wow. It's at least it's already Friday for him, right? We are still
Yeah.
on Thursday. We still have one whole day before the weekend. He's already closer to the weekend than us, so I guess that's good. Um. Anyway, I think we can already start. Let's start by talking a little bit about the brand design and brand identity. And before we can move on, you want to talk a little bit about your background or how you what you work with and why you became an expert in brand strategy and brand identity.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, I have a branding agency. We're based in Miami, Florida. Although I'm currently in France, so it's a bit later for me. It's 9 p.m. right now, but going back tomorrow. And we help our clients with everything from brand strategy, brand design to web design and development, as well as social media. So really everything that encompasses how you can build a brand and succeed with branding. And before that, I used to work. So right now, my clients are rather like smaller brands and entrepreneurs. And before that, I also worked in corporate with way bigger companies such as Procter and Gamble for the Gillette Fitness brand and Nespresso. So I have kind of both views of how smaller companies work and like way bigger brands. And I really wanted with my agency to really bridge the gap that I felt there was between both, which I think mostly is a strategic gap. So that's why in everything that we do and that I do, I really put a very big emphasis in the strategic part, because I feel like sometimes it's something that we're missing. And I think it's kind of a waste because uh, people, and especially the business owners, even themselves, can work on their brand strategy themselves. It doesn't have to be a huge cost, but it brings you so much clarity, and then it will make all of your decision making, whether it's for brand design, for your website, for your funnels, everything will become easier once you have that clarity and you have the vision and the plan. So yeah, that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. I wish we everyone had a little bit of that experience that you have. Recently, we just had a live in Brazil. I talked a little bit about brand identity, and it was amazing. So if there's anyone here that was also watching us, then you're going to enjoy it even more because we're going to go even deeper in this live. A lot of people arriving from many places, from Kansas, USA. It's Michael. Hello, Michael. Welcome. We got more people from a lot of people from the U.S. That's great. That's great. Everyone, welcome. So before any of the questions start arriving, let me just take a look real quick over here. Um, yes, that's true. We see a lot of people talking about branding for massive companies, right? Like McDonald's, like Apple, like how
Yeah.
you know that McDonald's is McDonald's as soon as you see that little M, not little, but that big M you see from far away, you know there's a McDonald's there. And as soon as you see the colors, you get in there, you start to get hungry because of all of that evokes in you. Um,
Even the smell, they have
yeah,
like strategy, like brand strategy when it comes to the scents.
exactly.
It's crazy.
But usually we people don't associate that with smaller businesses, right? So maybe when you're starting a business, you don't think that it might be necessary for you. Like why? I mean, I'm not McDonald's, right? So I don't need
Yes.
to follow the same examples. That is just not true, right? And it's also important for them.
Oh, yes, definitely. It's super important. And yes, we do have this thing because, of course, when we read case studies about branding, I think they're written in a way that obviously we want people to relate. So we always take, they always take at least super known brands like Apple, McDonald's, like Coca-Cola, like the ones you mentioned that are even known like worldwide. And it's true that the problematics with branding for way smaller brands are very different. So maybe it's not so relatable. Like you may aspire to that, but you may not. And then you're not sure how to convert that because they have way different resources and teams and budgets and all of that. But it is extremely important for small brands as well, because like I say, like big brands became big because of branding. That's why like they did the work, and that's how also they became big. And it always also starts, of course, with a product. Like it cannot be just like, oh, it's branding, it's looking pretty, and that's it, and then you have a product that doesn't work. Like it's really encompassing everything, just like with marketing. And yeah, one figure that I like to always mention is that according to a Harvard professor, 90% of purchasing decisions are made based on emotion. And so with branding, we're really focusing on driving that emotion and seeing what emotion is my brand going to create with my audience, my ideal customer, so that I connect with them and reach them. And then you apply that this is your branding, and then it gets applied through all of your marketing. So whether it's on your website, on a landing page, with a funnel, with an email, in your social posts, then that's like more of the marketing part. But yeah, it's definitely super interesting, whether it's for big or for small brands. There's no like brand size, whether you're just starting out or not. That's definitely something to at least think about.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's crucial. If you want to grow, you need to have that perception next to you, right? Like, I mean, in your favor. You don't need to be convincing people who you are all the time. If you have a consistent brand, people that met you when you were small are always going to know you, and they're always going to recognize you, no matter what,
Yeah,
what you're
exactly.
doing.
I think it's just that's a super cool comment, because it's just like, as a person, I love to think of brands as people, especially when we're like at a smaller scale. I think it makes more sense than comparing ourselves with big brands that it's not as relatable.
Hmm.
And if you think of a person, it's like your brand is your reputation as a person. It's like, what mark did this person make on you is the same. And even if you're a solopreneur, it's just you still have an impression that you're making, whether you think of it and it's thought of strategically or not. uh, y- People will remember you or not for something. So it might as well be something like a message that you cannot control and that you put intention into. That's the whole goal with branding, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, true. I
Yeah.
never thought about it that way, but yeah, it's and people will judge you by what you show them, right? So if you're
Yeah.
even if you use that analogy, if you're a confusing person, if you're nice in one day and you're different in the other day, they're not really going to connect with you. It's weird. But if you have
Yes.
a consistency, you're always the same in those terms. It helps people identify and create that connection with you.
Yes,
I think.
definitely. I think, like you mentioned, consistency is key. Whether it's like with your reputation, with your brand, it's definitely super important. And that's why also I love with Builderall that everything is integrated in one platform. So it really helps people, I feel, to be a lot more consistent, because in the same spot you can have your social media scheduling app, and then you also have your website and you have your email marketing, so you can be super consistent with all of your visuals. And even when you think of the strategy and more of the operational plan, like, oh, this is what I'm going to send out as a marketing email that day, and then that same day or the next day I'm posting that on socials, and all of it is in the same platform. So I feel like that's obviously super super helpful.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I see a comment that we do have someone. At least I'm not sure if Peter is from Brazil, but he is watching us from
Oh wow.
Brazil. He is from. Is saying that he is in Praia do Rosa, which is in southern Brazil, next to the city of Florianopolis. It's a great, great, great place. I was just there for Christmas and New Year's specifically. That's
Nice.
quite a kind of a coincidence. It's a great, great place. Welcome, Peter. Not sure if you're Brazilian. You don't have a very Brazilian name, but welcome anyway. It's amazing. That's very, very, very cool. We also have another question related to that, and it's a very interesting question from Oliver. Is it better to have one home or main brand for all projects,
Hmm.
or lots of companies or smaller brands for each type of project that you're running, like your project, your marketing, your e-commerce, and etc.? It's a cool
Ooh.
comment because we can use that to compare. For example, you have Amazon. There's a big brand, Amazon, and they have like divisions, right? So they have the Prime division, they
Yes.
have the store, they have Prime Music, and all of that.
Hmm.
And but they all kind of follow the same identity, right? And that's, I think, is important.
Yes, definitely. And that's definitely a question that I get a lot when it comes to branding and even with personal branding. Because usually I find, which is super exciting about entrepreneurs, is they have millions of ideas and projects. So then
Mhm.
you're like, does this all fit into the same thing that I'm doing. So maybe you're doing something, you have a specific company, and then you also want to pursue another project, but you're not sure if it makes sense. So that's when brand strategy sometimes it can help connect the dots, because you go back to why you're doing that and is there similarities. I would say, to answer your question, I'm not sure of the specifics. I don't have much more context about your question about your own companies, but usually, generally, if you're able to connect the two brands or projects with a similar mission, like are they serving the same purpose? And if they have the same audience, then you might as well capitalize on the efforts that you're doing, because probably you already started building something. And otherwise, you're kind of splitting your audiences. If you think in terms of, for instance, website traffic, or building your newsletter, your subscribers list, or your social media following, then if you do entirely different brands, you're going, maybe in the visual aspects, you're going to make it look kind of cohesive, like the Amazon example that Pedro mentioned. But then you have to start from scratch, basically, with that brand. Maybe you'll get a few followers from the other one, but it's more work. So if you can link them, depending on the stage you're at, but if you're a small to medium company, sometimes it makes more sense, because you'll be selling like a different offer. Maybe it's like a variation of what you're doing, but it still makes sense, I think, as long as it makes sense for the audience that you currently have. I would say it will make your life easier to do it that way. But of course, in your messaging, then you will need to connect the dots for people, so they don't think like, oh, wait, is it changing activities? Like, what's the link? So you have to make it clear to them what's the link, and it can just be like, oh, we're doing marketing and we're expanding to e-commerce. If it's a completely different project, it's not super relevant to the audience. Maybe like one or two cases that you think of, like, oh, I have these clients that might also buy into that. Then you should do a separate brand, and of course you will inform them, and maybe you do a launch email, a launch campaign on different platforms, so you make sure to capture those people that are also interested in the new projects. I hope that's helpful and answers your question.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to have. And you mentioned when in the other conversation that we had, that most important thing when it comes to branding is the strategy, right? It's
Yeah,
what's behind it, what motivates the elements of your branding, right? It's
yeah,
not colors and symbols and fonts. They're not just there to make your logo look cool. They're also there
yeah,
to send a message, to say what you stand for. And I think that if
exactly.
you have one company that has a few divisions, they will all follow that same strategy, because it's one brand, it's one mission. It's
Yeah,
it's just different products and different projects that you working on. So if you're following the same strategy, what is really the point of changing everything, right? It would be weird if Builderall had a little division and it just everything's green out of the sun and the font's totally different, right? It wouldn't make a lot of sense. People would be like, what's that? What a
yeah,
I don't like that.
definitely.
I don't like that.
And for instance, there's other companies that do just like, maybe they offer like one of the tools that Builderall is offering. So maybe it could have been a question at some point for Builderall, like, is it a different brand or not? But obviously they thought about it, and it's like, no, it's the same people that we're serving. We have the same goal. Our mission is the same when we're serving them. So of course it's going to be under the same brand. Probably, I'm sure it was even like the whole concept for Builderall, so it's a bit different. But if you think of it as like, it's like growing that way, as long as you're serving the same people, yeah, I would say that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. True, true. Good question. I like the question. I like the question. We have two more questions. Let's advance
Yeah.
to the next one. Kiora said, when it comes to social media accounts, I don't want to start over with a new account. I have a lot of friends and followers, so I want to use those accounts. How is this best managed I think in the perspective of branding, pretty sure that that's how she's using
Yes,
also.
and like,
Yeah,
yeah, I think she means like, does she start a new account or does she leverage the current accounts? Um, I think definitely like you kind of have an intuition with when it comes to that with already in the question that you're asking that you have a lot of friends and followers and you don't want to use your accounts, but also you don't want to start over actually. So
yeah,
both. Um, I'm not exactly sure. I would say it depends on your actual, like the brand, the account that you have, is it a personal one or not? If it's a professional one, it might make sense. So I've seen a few different things. Sometimes people will use their personal brands to go with a professional project, and it works best actually than doing a more corporate. So, for instance, what I mean is like a coach. Let's say you're a business coach. I've seen a lot of examples of clients and other people that they want to have like I don't know, ABC coaching because it looks more corporate. So you want to make it look like you're working on the branding, like a logo for that, for your website and your social accounts, and you want something a bit more corporate to sometimes appear like bigger than you are, or it's like you have that vision. But I feel like with those like that are more like service based, people, especially on social media, they connect a lot with people. Especially on social media, always, regardless, people connect with people. So you want to leverage that, and I think the accounts, for instance, for a coach that are most successful, will be really a personal brand one. So for instance, you have your icon logo to give you it to it very like operationally. Your icon, your profile picture isn't a logo, it's your photo. Because at the end of the day, people, what they are buying when they are wanting to work with you as a coach, they are buying you, like your time and your service. So that's why they want to connect with you, and you will have more success with that. Now it, I don't know in your specific case if that's helpful, but also there's a lot of fear and resistance when it comes to posting and like posting yourself. I think when I work on social media strategies and social media content with my clients, a lot of times the hardest part for them is I'm telling them like, oh, you have to, as much as possible, you will be a lot more successful if you go on stories, you do video, because people get a better feeling of who you are and they can connect more. Even I see it for myself. I'm a branding agency, and on our social media for the agency, it made sense to have one that is more corporate because it's not just me and it's a bigger team. So it wouldn't be fair for it to be just my name. So that's a better representation of what we do. But we post pictures of like myself and the team, and also, of course, the work we do. And sometimes it's kind of frustrating because on social media, the posts that have the best engagement are posts that it's our faces and it's our photo shoots of like me, the team, and like we're working, we're trying to make it, of course, to convey our message. But sometimes we post like a great design that we did that we're super proud of, this brand or this website, and it gets way less likes than something with just our faces that took way less effort. But then they serve other purposes because obviously people will see and they need to understand what we're doing and see our work. So I guess you need to kind of visualize um, what is best for you. But if it's just because you're fearing kind of the from your friends and followers that you already have, I found that most of the time people are super nice about it. They like to hear when you're doing a new project, and we're always scared about this judgment, especially on social media. It's a bit cringy to be putting yourself out there, and it feels really weird to be talking on video and posting about yourself, and you're thinking like, who am I to be doing that? But yeah, something that helps me a lot and that I always say to my clients when it comes to that is that if you really believe in what you're selling and offering, you're actually doing a disservice to the world by not sharing it. So really try to go with that in mind. But then if it's going to completely block you because you know, like, oh, I have this people that I don't want them to see what I'm doing with my new project, and it's going to stop you from posting, then do a new account, because if you don't post, you're not going to succeed. So yeah, it's a in a case by case basis, but I hope like this helped you kind of position yourself and kind of get a feel for yeah, I can relate to that, and like just pinpoint where it's coming from, what you're saying, and then you can just do what is best at the end of the day for your brand and to make you successful. Oh, we have Pedro. I think
Yeah,
we lost you for a little
we
while, but I was talking for so long that yeah.
I was barely missed. But
Yeah.
yeah, we did. Like for some
You're
reason, my
back.
computer is acting out today, and I had a little issue, and I had to kind of restart a few things over here. But I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. For
No
everyone's
problem.
happiness, I'm back. So, um,
Um, okay, I have a question actually that I think maybe you could answer. It's this one. Can you still link Shopify products in Super Checkout? I have a client that wants to use a webhook to link to a course in e-learning.
yes, you can. Kind of create the product in Super Checkout. It's a configuration that you can do. You can also do drop shipping with Super Checkout. So you can sell products that are not necessarily on Super Checkout, and you can use the checkout system in Builderall to actually have the payment and um, manage the course. For example, if this in this case, if she's selling the course externally, you can link that course so you can have the client on the membership area here and on your website, so you can access the product here. That is something that you can do. Yes.
Okay, amazing.
hmm It's moving on.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions on that the topic on branding? I got my computer locked up, so I'm not.
I think
I don't know if I missed anything.
no, I think we covered the ones we got so far. I don't know, maybe because I didn't talk about it in the Monday meeting that I hosted this week. If you want to talk about the fonts updates,
That's true. That's true.
that would be,
Yes, we
yeah.
were talking about branding, and big part of the branding process is the fonts that you're using. Some fonts will give out a message that a more classic, more formal approach to your branding. Some fonts will give out a more modern, more uh, uh, technological approach. Some will be a more fun, playful approach. It's also important to have the fonts aligned to that strategy that you have. And recently we have exactly we had a user that just posted sorry, that's my one up. I just
Sorry.
noticed that are more fonts, and yes, because
Oh,
this
nice.
week we had a new bundle of fonts that were added in the website builder and on the magazine builder, so you can have more options in creating your designs and applying your text and everything on those tools. So it's pretty cool to have more options, and again, so important for your brand identity, that and now you have more options for that identity.
Yeah,
And I think a
def
big sorry.
no, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just no, just saying because it's important to have, because you always had the option to download fonts, right? You can upload, you can have any fonts that you want online, Google fonts, whatever, and you can upload the fonts on your account, but that will make your website a little bit heavier. So if you're using that font everywhere and you have a lot of text and a lot of pages, that will make your website heavier. So if you have the fonts or a similar font or something that aligns with your strategy inside the actual builder, it will make your performance, your website's performance, a little bit better. So that's pretty interesting.
Oh, nice.
Will those we have a question, a follow-up question from Chip. Will those new fonts soon appear in the menu as they will in the editor? What menu? You mean the menu on the website, the menu that you have on top? I'm not quite sure if that's what he means, but I if that is the case, I believe so, because you have a different editor to put the fonts in, choose the words in the menu. But yeah, you have they should appear in there. I'm pretty sure that it will be available soon. I don't have specific that information, but I'm pretty sure they will. Um, and still talking about fonts, how important it is for you to have a coherent and consistent font strategy for your brand.
Yes, I love how you say font strategy
Yeah.
with me. Yeah, I think fonts are definitely one of the most underrated parts of branding. The most overrated being the logo, which we actually don't use that much, but that's because we see it a lot with like big brands. We see a lot of the logo. When you're a smaller brand, especially, I would say that it's less important. Not that there's a hierarchy, but especially the thing that I mean is like your logo doesn't need to say everything and do everything. If you think of it, even big brands' logos are not that special. And yes, fonts are super important. So there's what we call type suite, which is kind of like your font strategy, exactly. Um, and basically, you want to define for each type of text that you will be using. So whether it's in print materials, on your website, and all of that, you want to define your type suite. So the fonts that you will be using and the styling of the fonts. So that means the spacing, is there kerning, like, so what is the space between the letters? Is it caps or no caps? Is it italic, bolded, all of that, like the styling, like how you make it
Mhm.
look, because fonts can look different depending on how you style them. Um, and then you want to define that, so which font and which style for at least your subtitles, your titles, your body, so the paragraphs fonts, and the buttons. For instance, subtitle and buttons can be the same, but if you choose that font, all caps and light, let's say, or bold, it has to always be the same. So you will always be using that font in all caps and in bold for your buttons and your subtitles, for instance. And that's super important because that's something that brings a lot of consistency, so that your branding is immediately recognizable. And also, it's important because it helps people kind of sweep through when they read a piece of content. It's easier when you see something that is different. For instance, I see, Pedro, you have your name here and then Customer Success Pro. So here it's like the same font, but you can see that the color is different and that the size is different as well. And so we read your name first. And then Customer Success Pro. So wherever you have the highest contrast and the bigger size, the eye will go first. So you can kind of direct the reader and make it easier for them to get your point, because most likely they will read just your titles and like swipe through your landing page and then go back to what's interesting to them. So there's like those two things that make it super, super important.
Yeah, yeah, true, true. I think no, it's important to think in the perspective of a customer, right? No one will be wasting minutes and minutes reading every single word that you have, and directing the client's attention is pretty important. And how you type is also uh, important. We have a nice question when it comes to fonts. How many fonts and colors should I use for the branding? Good question,
Yeah,
Oliver.
yeah, super good. I like it because it's very like straight to the point, and I feel like that's the questions that you actually um ask yourself when you're like actually doing it, like, but literally, what do you mean? I think when it comes to fonts, so I would say if you're doing it yourself, so there's exceptions and you will see things that don't follow that rule, so don't sue me if you see something else. But as before you get into the exceptions, you have to kind of be skilled, and sometimes it will work great, but those are like super good designers. So as a general rule, and if you're not a professional designer and you're doing your branding mostly yourself, I would say in terms of fonts, you want to, I would say, keep it to a maximum of 3 fonts. So what I would recommend, for instance, and you can do less, so you can do like 2 or 3, I would say. What you can do, a good rule, is to have one subtitle font. So you would have, for instance, your subtitle, then you will have a title. Your title font can be different than that one. Then a body font, so for your paragraphs and all those like texts. The body font, super, super important. Don't use a display font, which are like for like logos and titles, like really big things. And usually they look a bit fancier, and sometimes we're attracted to them. For a body font, you want to use something super classic, super like readable, because you want people to actually want to read it. And you are also going to want to ideally align your text to the left whenever it makes sense. So unless it's mobile, and sometimes you can align it like centered. But I see a lot of people in their documents justifying. So that's when you have the left and the right are like a line, which we think looks nice, but it's actually harder to read, because for the human eye, you want to read left to right, and then the right will not be at the same spot. So it tells your eye like, oh, the line that I finished on was shorter, so now I'm on the longer one. So it makes it way easier to read, and so it's easier for your audience's brain. So you want to do that. And then so you have your fonts for the buttons and CTA. And so usually you can have the same for a button and a subtitle. It's a good like little trick. And maybe in the button, you're going to make it bold. And for the subtitle, you're going to make it thin or light or like regular. Super simple one for the body. Use one that is already for your body text. Use one that is already in the email builder, in the website, that is already in Builderall, because you want something that is going to be across the board. And then for your title, you can use something a little bit more like bolded, or like use all caps if you feel like you like that, or like you use like a sentence case, but like italic. Like you can do a bunch of things and be more creative with that. But the other ones you can keep pretty simple, I would say. And so have like 2 or 3 of those. And then for colors, I would say the same rule. It's like the simpler the better, and you're going to want to have 2 or 3 colors. You will be the most consistent as possible. Then if you're more skilled and like you kind of researched a bit and like you're geeking out about colors, you can do a lot of fun stuff. But if you're not really sure about that, and it's your first time like doing a branding, usually it will look nicer if you have less. If you have a brand that is more like elevated, high-end luxury, you want to go with 2 colors. So usually you will see like luxury brands are usually now very understated. So you will see a lot of black and white fonts that are like, there's not a lot of mixes of fonts. Even the logo looks like the body font. Like it's very like less is more. The more high end you want to go, the less you're going to want to be doing with both your fonts and your colors. And another little like last tip about color is if you're using black, especially as a background, don't use pure black. So don't use the hex code like 0000. You're going to want to use something that is like a very dark gray or a very, very dark blue gray, because um, especially as a background, a full black is very hard to the eye. And to have text on top of it, you're going to make your text white and it's giving people headaches. So that's a little thing that you want to make it a little bit softer, even if to other people it will appear as black and white. So yeah.
Oh, I never thought about that. That's that's interesting.
Yes, that's a designer trick.
Yeah,
I'm
of course.
sharing all the pro tips. I'm
Have to
going
have
to
the
be out of a job
experience.
tomorrow.
Because I mean, you always think that black is black, doesn't make a difference,
Yeah,
right?
it's not.
It's just black.
You would
But yeah.
you would be amazed at the amount of time we spend sometimes like figuring out like a spacing or like, but is this the right black? And because it's not
Mhm.
actually black, and then sometimes our clients like, it's right because you don't analyze that, but like I spent like an hour choosing that black that is not actually black. So yeah, that's my life.
Well, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the price for the expertise in this business. But that's really cool because I think detail makes a lot of difference in branding because it's everything
Yes.
is almost subconscious, right? A lot of the things that the brand will impact on you are subconscious. People are not going to be looking at the black and say, too black, scroll down.
Yes.
They're not gonna do that, but it's subconsciously they're gonna be a little bit bothered by that, and they might move away. So if you have as the person creating the brand, if you have that attention to detail, that can be very very impactful. Impacted, I don't know,
Yes.
but yeah, that's true. That's true.
No,
Um,
definitely.
um, and I want to make a comment when you talk about the text, like the big block text. I think it also makes the text look bigger, so it may push your reader away. Like, oh, that's too much. I don't want to read all of that because it's big, right? So I mean, I don't
Yeah,
want
it's
that.
bigger, and then also it creates like weird spaces between
Yeah,
your words because it's not like they don't all have the exact same amount of words. So
exactly.
then it's just
It
not a
looks
look.
weird.
But a
Yeah,
lot of people do that. So I think we've been taught at some point like that's cool, but it's not. So
yeah,
yeah.
that's true. We have a great question also. Not it kind of aligns with brand as well. In regards to landing page, is each one a subdomain or do I have to register a domain for each? I think that in this case, it goes back a little bit to what we're talking about the projects. I think it's important strategy wise to keep a consistency in your domains, right? If you're just going to, if all the pages that you're creating are from for one company, for one project, for one business, I think it's crucial for you to have the same domain, right? It's your address, it's your online identity, it's your domain, it's your business, right? So builderall.com, it's ours, and it is what it is. So everything that we're gonna do, we're always gonna do it from Builderall, right? So that's really really important. If you want to have separate websites for different projects, you can, and that's why you can use a subdomain. So you can have one like star dot your domain or sales dot your domain, contact dot your domain, support dot your domain. They always gonna follow that same feeling, like I'm in the same place, I'm dealing with the same company, I'm dealing with the same people. So it also I think aligns a little bit with that feeling, that person, the consistency feeling that we were talking so much about. If it's a totally different project, then you can buy a different domain and you can have it in a separate project in itself. But if you're dealing with the same company, the same business, I think it's very important for you to have the same domain. I don't think it changes that much if you're using either a domain or like a page. So for example, instead of contact.builderall, you would have builderall.com dash contact. that I don't think that changes so significantly, but it is very important to have the same domain over there, and that's very very clear, I think,
Yeah.
for what we do.
Definitely for branding, what you said, like completely agree. And then I wonder also if it's not beneficial even for SEO as well, because it's like building on your website, and Google can read that there's a structure to your website and look into that. So I think it's like a double benefit when that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true, that's true. And she followed up with the question, I haven't seen how to create subdomains in Builderall. It's just like creating connecting a domain. So you're gonna go to your website, gonna go like to your domain tab, and instead of typing your domain and connecting it, all you got to do is type your subdomain. So go out there, type, click on connect, and you'll be good. If your domain is already hosted with us, so if it's already in our service, like the DNS is already pointed to us, then you don't even need to worry about servers or hosting or any of that. It's automatically going to be hosted with us as well, because the subdomain is created automatically within the same domain. But if your domain is external, you're gonna need to make that pointing, that transfer per se. You can do that through the IP address, if I'm not mistaken. It's not a complicated process, it's an easy process. But the connection here in Builderall is just like connecting a domain. All you gotta do, go to your website, go to the domain tab, add the subdomain there, click on connect, and you're gonna see that the domain is already gonna be working. Is that clear?
Amazing.
Sure, that's answered. There's a client that asked, "Do you think a website should have justified text or always left align?" And that's what we talked about. It's very important to have the self-aligned text. I think so.
Yes. Yes, definitely. I would say as a main rule, always left aligned. And so when you have a section of, let's say, a block of text where it's like your subtitle, title, body text, and button left aligned, everything should be left aligned. Another mistake that I see sometimes we center the title and then left align something else. When you choose one alignment, you choose it through for everything, and you can left align everything. The only exception is sometimes it makes sense to center text. So those exceptions are when, for instance, you have a banner and your text is still going to be small. Like, don't make it from left to right for a desktop, because it's too, like, your eyes is going, like, you're going to give um your users like way too much work to like
Mhm.
watching tennis on your website. So you still want to keep it short, like that same length. So you're losing space, but white space is great. Like, white space is like empty space, even that is not used. And then it's centered because, for instance, you don't have a picture next to it, or you don't want to leave so much white space just to the right. So then it's just like a few sentences and everything will be centered. But then let's say after that, you have a panel or a block where it's a picture and then text. You have your picture on the left, and next to it, the text is going to be everything left aligned. And let's say then you have another panel where it's like the picture on the right and the text on the left. You can also still left align your text, because right align is also more complicated, but never justified. And then
Mhm.
another instance that you can do both, but I think if the text is a bit longer, for instance, when you talk about features, so you have those sections where you have like 3 to 4 icons and then like a little subtitle and then a text to talk about like this and that. You can either center each one, or you can left align them. The longer the text is, the more I would recommend to do left alignment. But then it works also as centered text if you want to. So yeah, never justify.
That's cool. That's cool. It's the details that we rarely think about, and
Yes.
when we do, it's hard to understand what works better or not. So that's why it's interesting to have some tips from
Yeah.
someone like you. Oliver has another
Of course.
question, and I'm not quite sure that I get the point. Does Google AdSense or similar ads on your page detract from your brand or product? I'm not sure if you're referring to, you doing ads and bringing people to your page, or like those websites that have ads on them so that you can kind of make money off of the website. Yeah, you
I
can go
understand
ahead.
it that way, I think, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure either now that you mentioned. But yeah, I think I understand it. Like if you have a website and you're putting on ads
yeah. I think
on your
in that
website.
case, it can be a little harmful, can it?
I think yes, or you have to, because then maybe your website, you're kind of building like a blog, or you have a business model like you're a media company, like a magazine or blog. Then you want to have advertisers. I would say, as much as possible, try to check. And I don't know if you're able to do that or not with AdSense, but you want to make sure that the brands that you would be promoting, in any case, whether it's with AdSense, with ads on your website, with social media, anything, um, are they like in line with your brands? If not, if it's like completely random stuff, and I think with AdSense, you could have something that your website is selling something and talking about a topic, and then they're just targeting their people that have searched for something entirely different, then it's hurting your brand a lot. So if you're not able to select which brands you partner with, I would refrain from that, unless that's your whole business model. But I don't exactly know also like how much it brings you. So you have to weigh the pros and cons. Obviously, I'm sure there are um, budget things that are associated with it. So at the end of the day, only you can choose. But from a branding perspective, only, yeah, it can be a little tricky.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, especially, even when it's necessary for you to survive, it still harms your brand, right? Sometimes I see,
Long
like,
term, yeah.
yeah, I like to read the news a lot. So it's weird when you go out to like a website, like a big website like CNN, and they have like news and a lot of like really well produced news, and then right underneath them there's like a bunch of extremely weird and lying news that that they
Yeah,
were put there because of ads, and you're like,
yeah,
how can like a respectful, respected journal or newspaper or whatever have this bunch of crap in it? It kind of makes you respect them a little less. You know what I'm saying? It's weird.
yeah,
Sometimes it's necessary because there's no other way that they can make a lot of money. um, Even though I believe there are other ways they should avoid doing that. But yeah, I think if you can avoid that, it's interesting, especially if, as you said, if it's your store, or you're selling a product or something else. You technically, you don't want to show your clients that you need ads to make money. Technically, your product should be your source of revenue, right? If you're having a product and you're successful selling that product and is a good product, then why are you putting ads on your website? It's I think it also gives, I mean, that's just my perspective, but I think it also gives a double message of like, I have this product, but I'm not making that much money with it, so I have this ads on the side to kind of help me. I don't know.
yeah. Or I just want to make more, and then they kind of feel used. Like you say, with the news is a great example, and they would never do that in a newspaper or even on TV because they would vet. So that's one of the downsides of the internet is you kind of have everything, and at the end of the day, I think it comes down to trust because
Yeah,
you might not see right away. You're like, what is this news? It's so weird the way it's written, and then you realize, oh, it's an ad because
yeah,
because you work in marketing as well. But for people who don't, it's like very, very strange. And if you don't have trust with you and your audience, that's the main basis for branding and all of what you're doing. So yeah, sometimes it's better to think of the longer term.
yeah. I totally agree with that. We are getting to an hour of our meeting, and that went by really, really fast,
Yeah.
surprisingly. So please, guys, if you would not, we don't have so much more time. So if you have a couple more questions, please leave them on right now, and we're gonna go through the last ones as we can. So
Yes. Oh, I think we had a scoring question. I don't know if you know about that.
probably from
Um,
someone.
yeah, I think it was at the very beginning. Are you able to share about scoring, not the tag scoring, but the scoring scroll bar in the CRM area? It's set for 2 points. What's the difference between that one and the tag points you set in Origins?
I'm not sure what that is referencing,
Yes, I'm not sure
unfortunately.
either. So,
Um, I think in that case, I think it's the best answer you can find is through the technical support team. They can really
yeah,
evaluate what you're referring to, and they can produce a specific material on that. I'm not quite sure what that
the CRM system.
what that means. I'm sorry about that. Um,
Um, and otherwise, I'm sure also in next week's Q&A, Jackie will be back and she will be taking people live with her. So maybe that way, I'm sure you can give her more context and like share screens and everything. So she will be a lot more helpful with that. I hope it's not too urgent, but yeah, we just don't want to give you a wrong answer and
yeah,
yeah.
true. And if it's urgent, you can still access the technical support right now. You can get someone on the live chat, and they will uh, um, they will provide you with an answer. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be a more precise answer on that regard. Um, let's see what else we have. Let's
I
see.
think that's
Yeah. All right. So before we move on, do we have any last tips that you want to share with people? I know you already shared a bunch and very useful content. I think for everyone who's starting to um to branding and all of that. But is there anything else that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think we shared a lot. I'm happy that we had very like operational logistics questions, which I feel are always the most helpful. I think coming back to what you said in the intro, one of the main tips is to focus on your strategy and ask yourself always when you're doing something. And that doesn't have to be so intense, like creating a huge strategy, but just sit down for like an hour like you would do with a business plan or anything like that and think about your brands and just ask yourself like what you want to convey with your visuals with everything that comes into your brands. I think that's important because as I said, like it will bring you a lot of clarity and then you can just it will make each work session and each time you work on like your website or the more visual aspects of your brands, you will gain time then because you know what you want to say and then it's just about finding like okay I'm going to say it that way. So yeah, just even if it's not your main thing and main focus, try to sit down and like think of it like for an hour, like who are your targets, what are your business objectives, your competitors, your brand values. You probably know all of that, so you just have to like really write it down and then think like, oh, people that have that like me, like this font leads me to that brand value, like that makes sense, everything is cohesive, like you always
Hmm.
come back to those brand values, that tone of voice for your brand, and you will know instantly if something is right or wrong and like it will be faster for everything else. So yeah,
That's great. That's great. I think yeah, consistency is key. Um, yeah, and everything that you do has to align with your base strategy. Otherwise, you okay. Otherwise, you're most likely gonna get lost in the process, right? If you're not really sticking to your strategy, at some point you're gonna start doing things that don't really share what you want to share. So
Ooh, And also, we got this great one. Another tip, I love when we have tips from the audience. Check your brand name before buying domains. My rookie mistake. That's such a great share. Sometimes the simplest thing we don't even think to mention, but yes, definitely check your brand name.
Yeah, yeah, very important. Very important.
Great
Make sure
one.
that,
Thanks for sharing.
because as I said, your domain is one of the most important things for your online reputation, your authority,
Yes.
and you're going to develop that throughout your email marketing strategies. You need to build your authority, so it's important. Definitely important. All right, guys, I
Definitely.
think that this is it for today's session. We want to thank everyone for participating, all the questions, all the comments. It was just great. It's always good to have that interaction with you guys. Thank you, everyone who's watching this not live, watching the recorded version after that.
Yes.
I hope that the content that we brought you to you guys was useful. And yeah, thank you, Anne, very much. Your amazing insights are always good
Thank
to
you so
to
much.
hear.
So nice to do the Q&A with you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I guess everyone want to wish everyone a great uh, end of Thursday, depending on where you are, or a great Friday if you're watching us
Yes.
from Australia, and a great weekend to everyone. We'll see you guys again next week. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be here, but anyway, maybe I will. It's I'm gonna try to.
Yes.
All right, it was a pleasure. Bye, everyone.
Bye. See you next week.